Hi folks, it's Admiral Revan here, and today we are going to do something real quick in honor of World of Warships and also in regarding to the Missouri event. And lest we forget, for those who have served in the Second World War and all the wars around it, both before and after, and we want to thank all our war veterans for their service, for what they've done to their nations. And it is our hope and our prayer that we will not end up in a situation of facing each other in war ever again. Now, in times like these, it is a bit of a heads up with everything going on around the world. We hope that it never happens in the near future. So, my friends, the Pacific War event for 2021 with the return to Missouri was a bit of a success for those who finally got the ship that they wanted after so long. In recognition and memory of the Missouri, the war veterans in the Second World War, and also the war veterans both before the Second World War and after it, will be honored and remembered. In regard to everything that you have seen for this event that World of Warships has done, I want to say a big thank you to the World of Warships community, the community contributors. I also want to thank the content creators, the community contributors, and the fans out there who have put this together and made this possible. I know that the Missouri event has been an eventful time, and as we count down on the final days to this event ends, we hope that everyone who had a chance to get to Missouri, and I do welcome them to celebrate and share your good memories about this in the near future. With that being said, I have to acknowledge that when I got the Admirals of the Pacific pack with all these commanders and also these commandatory flag and patches, I have to admit it was well worth it in the end. I have to also acknowledge that the camo for the Missouri festive event was actually looked pretty nice in the end in the port. Also, I want to acknowledge that the whole event for the Missouri was well done. Basically, if you wanted to get like the flags and that, and the camos and that sort of thing, it's well worth getting in the end. Now, if you did participate in the war history of the Pacific War, you'll be given a set campaign. Now, this is actually all the completion message that you'll see. Now, I will play the completion message so that you can enjoy this video.
Wait for me, and I'll come back. Wait with all you've got. Wait when cheerless yellow rain whispers that you need not. Wait when the snow swirls fast. Wait when the sun blazes hot. Wait when long days are past and others have forgot. Wait when from that distant place word does not arrive. Wait when all those you face know I'm not alive. Wait for me, and I'll come back. Wait for me. Don't fret when they tell you there's no doubt that it's time to forget. Even when those dearest to me tell you I am gone. Even when my nearest give up, claiming it's been too long. Let's raise a glass of bitter wine to the friend who's passed. Wait, don't share that drink. Wait until the last. Wait for me, and I'll come back, cheating every fate. A nice stroke of luck, they'll say, those that could not wait. Only they will never know how amid the strife, by waiting for me, my dear, and you saved my life. The two of us will know how you got me home. Only you knew how to wait. It was you alone.
And that, my friends, was a very well put video. I have to admit, when I saw that, it was very well done. Now, I will talk about it. So, we have historical events that was done in the Pacific War event. You had a choice to choose where you want to start in option 1, which is Pearl Harbor, or the Battle of Kuantan. So Pearl Harbor, as you know, December 7th, 1941. Feel free to read the history about this. This is actually very well put. It was very well summarized about what had happened there. And a lot of people's lives were lost, and that terrible tragedy at that time. It marked the beginning of when the US joined the war. And that's a very good photo of the Arizona, lest we forget. In terms of the Battle of Kuantan, as you know, the Battle of Kuantan was over near Saigon. That's actually near Vietnam. And I have to admit, when I looked at this, it's also near Singapore as well, but very eventful. And there's a very good history about that too. The Battle of the Java Sea. As you know, the Japanese were winning at the Pacific War at the time. They pretty much dominated the area and actually had everything on the ropes. pretty much were pretty swift and they're pretty strong in force. The Battle of the Coral Sea was the first turning point in the war, or the one of the many. A very historical event when the Americans reached up to the Australians for aid. The Australians and New Zealanders were facing pretty much a rough situation where they really needed Allied support from the Americans. And they came to aid with their carriers and whatever fleet the ships they could spare. And it was actually very well put, it was very courageous. A lot of lives were lost on both sides. But I have to admit, the biggest impact in the Coral Sea was the loss of the Lexington for the Americans. The Yorktown was damaged severely, but was able to get back to port. No worries in the end. Over back in Midway. Well, it didn't get to Midway, but again, I'm getting towards Pearl Harbor. The Battle of Midway in June 1942 is the turning point of the Second World War for the Pacific War. This is when the Americans were gambling with intercept transmissions from the Japanese Navy, and they were hoping to catch the Japanese off guard, which they did, but the Japanese were ready for that possibility as well too. A lot of lives were lost on both sides, with four Japanese carriers, I should say. 4 Japanese carriers were lost. The Kaga, Akagi, Suru, and Hiru. They basically got decimated. But it was a big, fight to the finish for the Japanese and the Americans. The Americans lost to Yorktown, but the Hornet and the Enterprise were able to fight them off to the rest of its days. In terms of the Japanese side of things, well, it's pretty spectacular photos. Hitting the Yorktown, and there's a Sora at the bottom there. Looks very nice though. But very good war history. Battle of Guadalcanal. This is when the Americans took the offense. So they went on the offensive move and tried to take Henderson Field, which they did, and try to retake bit by bit in the Pacific. Admiral Yamato was there as well, apparently. So it was pretty full on. But the Japanese feared that they woke the sleeping giant, and they did. Battle of the Philippine Sea. Well, they believed they had fewer problems, yeah, right. But the Philippine Sea was very eventful. Yorktown was prepared to launch. Some planes and with the Hornet in the background. It was very nice. It was a very nice footage right there. And they really pushed hard against the Japanese. And that was the Japanese aircraft carrier Suzukaku, and the 2 Japanese destroyers. That was pretty full on. And then, last but not least, the Battle of Leyte Gulf. one day, and we would like to see an operation out of this. A lot of brave men, women on both sides were lost. But I will admit that this was one of the most bloodiest battles in history, when the Japanese had caught the Americans with their pants down at one point at the main base of Leyte Gulf, when they try to strike at the main harbor and try to destroy the transports and everything over there. The Japanese were met against a fearsome group of American destroyers and escort carriers, and the main battle group with all the battleships and that were lured away, going out far north to a whole bunch of aircraft carriers the Japanese had that had little amount of planes. So, as far as I've been told in history side of things, but definitely it was a very costly victory in the end. The Battle of Leyte Gulf, a lot of people were lost on both sides. There's some fantastic photos and footage. But yes, definitely I would, definitely check it out in more detail. And look at that, that's actually very, very good footage before a Japanese plane commits kamikaze on a carrier, a warship. That's unreal. But yeah, it is unreal. But my friends, I always want to say a big thank you to Wargaming, and thank you so much for this event. And honestly, if you haven't got the Missouri, I know that the Missouri will come back in the near future, but yeah, definitely big thanks to Wargaming for the Missouri event, and it is one to remember. Lest we forget, and please stay safe and take care, my friends, and definitely thank you for this lovely video.